Well, good morning, Liberal Kansas, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. This Roll with the Leader in Times on Friday, April 19th, 2024. Joining me on the far side, Jim Rice, just off camera, B. Simons, and we have a special guest with us here today, the Kansas State Treasurer, Steve Johnson. Appreciate you coming in.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
And, I know we're going to look at some things here locally. I didn't get a chance to mention this to you before, but I thought I'd maybe see what your thoughts were. Just yesterday, I found out that Jake LaTurner is deciding not to run for the U.S. House, and you're one of our statewide office holders. What kind of response do you have about Jake LaTurner not seeking re-election?
Well, it was a surprise. I did not know that was coming. Appreciate Jake's service there. There's been a lot of discussion about who will run now, so we'll continue to watch that. I've appreciated having Jake as well as Ron Estes there. Former treasurers have been very helpful. I did happen to talk to Jake on Monday about unclaimed retirement plans and what we can do with the Department of Labor to do a better job of getting that connected. But in that conversation, this was not part of what we talked about, so I was quite surprised when I saw the press release yesterday.
Yeah, and so in that district, how familiar are you with that district, and any thoughts of, or hearing any names that might be floating around over there?
There are a number. I'll let them speak for themselves on where they'll go. Most of it is some degree of speculation. A number of folks that will be interested. There are a couple of news articles that came out in Topeka that listed a few folks. But as we let it settle down over the next week, we'll start seeing who files and look forward to who else we can have to represent Kansas.
Sure. Well, and I know that you handle the checkbook of the state.
Yeah.
And right now there's discussions going on about that you're actually sitting in pretty good shape. And I know you've got a way to get money back to folks, and we're gonna share that. But I wanted to ask you, one thing we talk about a lot on the show is, here Kansas is sitting on like a $3 billion surplus, and you look at states like California that are $20 or $30 billion in the hole. And I know everybody got COVID money thrown at them by the feds and everything like this. What do you see as the differences on how we handle money in Kansas, and what's happening in states like California, where they've had all this money thrown at them too, and yet their $30 billion deficit, we're a $3 billion surplus? What makes a difference?
So there are a couple of things that come together on that, and that the surplus has been built over time. And staying focused on spending is the number one piece. It becomes easier and easier to increase spending as those surpluses grow, and keeping that in check is very hard. There are worthy projects that we can pursue, but making sure we don't grow at a rate when our revenues are high is key. That's the biggest contributor, is holding that line on spending. So, and I think it also points to the fact that we do have room to cut taxes and look at a lower revenue stream, and then make sure we hold our spending in line with that. So I know the legislature's worked on that this year, and we'll continue to fine tune it. We'll get the consensus revenue numbers today, which will tell us a little more of where we're at.
Is that something that you communicate with like House and Senate leadership? Because the temptation, the money's there, we can do this, we can do that, but then what happens when it runs out? And now we've got to come up with money to pay ongoing programs and things like that. Do you guys help with, well, if you do this, here's kind of I know that they have a legislative, budgetary office that kind of helps with that, but is that something that you guys have a hand in?
So it is largely by the legislature and the executive branch for the governor's office that looks at the projections, the consensus revenue. I do weigh in. So when I was in the legislature, I had that 10,000-foot view of what we sent different directions. In the treasurer's office, I am a lot closer to the tree line, looking at what came in that day, what comes out. I do weigh in and share my thoughts that are there, as does everybody else, looking at what it is. Where it's really important with legislative research and the governor's office of the budget is saying, okay, what are you looking at? What are our projections as we pass this budget bill, as we pass this tax bill? And as we do that, that affects how long we dare to invest those monies, because we want to get the most return we can for it. On the float of the state, we have about $36 billion in a year that flows through our hands. We made just over $400 million in the last calendar year in interest because of high rates and the fact that there is an ending balance. So there's been a lot we can do with that money, but fine-tuning it to say, okay, how much has to stay liquid? How much can we go a little farther out on? Right now, we're asking some questions. We have $600 million in unclaimed property. That's some longer-term money. What is the right type of a portfolio with that? The legislature passed a bill to give us a better ability to both take and remove those positions, which was important. So that's the communication that we really focus on. And what I can share is, well, if we spend at this level, we'll invest at this level. And as we look forward, I hope we don't continue to earn $400 million, and that I hope interest rates can come down. And I hope we don't have as much of an ending balance. We need to be closer to our 7.5%, and we're headed that direction.
And is that 7.5%, is that, there's a constitutional number?
Right.
Is that the?
That's the number.
Okay.
So
And so that's what we're supposed to have, rainy day,
exactly.
and you never know.
So around 850 million would be that number versus the 3 billion that we have currently.
Well, we look forward to seeing what they come up with. I know that I finally got through your site, but you also
Oh, that
have a
was
link here.
unbelievable. I have never seen that many security checks pop up.
Well, you know, I don't know. Maybe I think everyone has had to deal with on a website, you know, the little security come up, click this photo and this and that, and apparently either I'm not very good at it or you guys are very locked down.
Don't hire Earl to put your bicycle together.
No, that was odd. I commend you for your patience. I would have given up on the site, and I'm glad we backed up to the iPad if we had to.
So we can do this either way, but
Oh, go right there.
you, well, so I'll switch over here, but you have a site where people can go and find out if maybe they have some money. So we brought up here, we just put in Liberal, Kansas to find out some that have Liberal in their title. So maybe you can tell us how this works.
Yeah, exactly. So in unclaimed property, we have, as I'd mentioned earlier, 600 million in assets that belongs to Kansas that for whatever reason have been returned to the state. It is, the bottom line is the payor wasn't able to find that payee. After a period of time, they remit those to the state. There are some I cannot explain why they did not find the payee, but we have those dollars. I might have you scroll up just a bit. So normally, you would just enter your last name and your name, and this is at kansascash.ks.gov, kansascash.ks.gov. The first icon is search unclaimed property, and that's now where we are if you scroll down a little. But to make it a little interesting, rather than putting in a person, we just put in Liberal for the city name and then repeated that in the city to see what entities in our area might show up. And there's quite a few as you scroll down. Are there any that pop out at you?
Well, I might have to get a hold of Jane Head. She retired. She was used to run a weekly paper here in town, the Liberal Light.
Okay.
And so it looks like she's got a utility deposit under $100 coming her way.
Well,
So-
there you go.
So Jane, if you're watching out there, or any of her kids, let her know. Liberal Chiropractic, Liberal Gas, Liberal Inn. Oh, I saw one down here that I thought was interesting because it was the Liberal Plaza. I think I was maybe on number 2 here. But the only reason I find that interesting because I think that's Shannon's place.
Oh, okay.
and
Well, and
so-
happy birthday to Shannon. Today is his birthday, Representative Francis. So,
Yeah, so here you got Liberal Plaza Development, Liberal Plaza LLC. Isn't that Shannon's?
Yeah,
The
I think
Plaza
so.
Drive, 150 Plaza Drive. So, you know, he's got, you know, Merit Energy Company, looks like they put some in for royalties. So this kind of gives you some information. You don't know the exact dollar amount. So what,
Right.
someone sees something, it's got the claim button or share.
Exactly.
So how does it work?
So if you click on that claim button for something that is your property, that will bring you to a screen that says, okay, this is it. Are you claiming, and it will give you a series of options to start it with. Are you claiming as the owner? Are you claiming as an heir, et cetera? So that's the first thing that you'll click, and then you'll go continue to file claim. On that screen, it will ask for your personal information. As you know, the site is secure.
Yeah, I promise you. I am a witness. You will not be able to get through if you are not the.
If you are on kansascash.ks.gov, there are imposter sites that like to do searches to collect your information, so do be careful about that. But if you see a kansas.gov site, you are okay. Work through that process. At the end, it will show up with a claim ID number. Take a picture of your screen or record that number. You can follow up with that if for any reason it doesn't happen to come right through, but you can go back and check a claim or anything that you need to do on that. You can submit forms if needed online. They may send you a claim form. Did you show people the challenge of clicking through on that?
I didn't show them
Okay,
that because
okay.
I didn't know how many I was going to go to. I put my family name in, and I see my wife has a little something here, my son has a little something here. So,
But
so
not you?
Not
Well,
me.
Well, just to do the next one, we won't go all the way, but if click on claim for your wife.
Oh, okay.
Just click on that and we'll back out of there. And then you'll see at the bottom it says continue to file claim.
So I'll just let people
Yep.
follow
So
along
you
with
hit
this.
the claim button, then continue to file claim. So scroll down a little bit. It shows that property. It says select an option. That's where you do that. So
She would be the owner.
So
I
she
guess.
would be the owner. She would click on that, and then she would go to file claim. If in the file claim screen,
And
then
she'd have to
this
fill
is
out
the
all
data.
that.
So
Yeah.
if she goes through that and clicks the next screen, it will bring her to that point to say, here's your claim ID. Then while you're there, let's go to the top of the screen if we can. Now, let's go to previous or home.
Okay.
I know it's risky to get out of that screen, but up
Yeah,
at the
so
top,
we'll
you see,
bring people
you see
things, see what they
claiming
see.
property.
So claiming property, and this is at the Kansas Unclaimed Property. This is the
This is-
unclaimedproperty.ks.gov.
Yep, so that's where you are now, and you can go to unclaimedproperty.ks.gov. We often just say Kansas Cash because it's
Yep,
easier
yep,
to
that's
remember, and then
easy.
this gets you there. But that first tab at the top is claiming property. If you scroll down a little, it'll say check the status of a claim, and that's where you can see where you're at with that, but it's going to ask for that number. And if we
Sure.
go back one more time, claiming property, just below that is to file documents, upload claim documents. If you
Oh.
click there, it will let you, we are likely to send out a claim form if it's of any meaningful asset size that you'll have to sign that form. You can just upload it there and return it. If other documentation is required, it could be attached there. That is the entire process.
So I know
Soup
you
to
kind of
nuts.
have a, on your site here, you have a kind of a measuring stick under over $100.
Yeah.
What are some of the claims, what are some of the bigger claims you've seen?
Whew. We've had some exciting ones that come through. A lot of them are smaller. It's a $20 utility deposit, sometimes a $5 deposit, et cetera. And the under over 100 gives you enough information to know if you should be pretty excited or maybe not as excited. They don't put as much information out on the site until
Sure.
they make sure they've got the right person on the line, and then you will get the exact details of what it is. So when they send out that form to file for the claim and sign, then you'll know exactly what it is and where it came from. But that's just a bit of a marker. So we had a person with a body shop in Great Bend who had a little over 30,000.
Wow.
We had our senator in Concordia knew the granddaughter of somebody that she saw on the list and called her up and said, "Are you sitting down? You got a little over 90,000 for your grandma." Helped her through the claim. That one was a little over a year ago. The biggest claim we paid out this year, this is unusual, I don't expect to have another, was for one individual that was $1,140,000.
Wow.
So it was exciting to find. It was
That wasn't me.
exciting. It was not. No, it was not Jerry. It was a little way east of here, not all the way east, but anyway, it was a very good day. A fairly long process, but a good day to get there.
So,
Do not expect $1 million.
so how much is in that fund, did you say?
600 million in total. So
Wow.
it continues to grow. And as other things are there, and we're looking for other pieces, we just got a case with MoneyGram, which has been in the state of Delaware. Well, that is now being returned to Kansas. That'll be another $1 million that we can help people find. But there is, I fear that this will increase with all of the online accounts because it may be even harder to find people.
So, is there a time limit at some point? Do these things just expire and become state money, or what happens?
So great question. No. Right now they
Wow.
maintain as a liability of the state. We do bring it into the general fund. We pay claims through the general fund. But if those monies that we just saw on the list are not claimed, they'll continue to be there. Tangible property, safe deposit boxes that come in. We do not hold the contents indefinitely. After 3 years, those are liquidated at an auction. And if it is sold for $683, then $683 is held as a liability. Program started, I believe, in '79, so we have assets back to that time that have been remitted to the state.
So, is that in a interest-bearing account, or is there something that the
Yes.
state benefits from that?
So the state does benefit. So right now, the average interest on our interest-bearing account is 5.3%. You apply that against 600 million. We weren't at quite 600 million a year ago. We were a little over 500 million. So about 550. But that, in theory, will generate close to 30 million a year in interest, which does go to the state. This is a different one. If I owe you $30 today, I owe you $30 in 30 years. Yeah. So all of those earnings do go to the state. So we actually appreciate it if you don't claim the money from that standpoint. But
it's
the
a trust.
goal is to get it into people's pockets.
Sure, sure. And so I guess do you know how that balance is kind of maintained? Because I'm sure some claims are made, and then some more money comes in unclaimed.
Exactly.
So does it just kind of sit at that 600 million?
It actually grows. Looking historically, I'd say we generally get in about 50 million a year. We've gotten in a little more than that in this year. I don't know that that trend will continue. And we generally pay out around 20 to 25 million. So it will tend to grow by that 20, 25 million a year, unless we find an even better way to let people in. Maybe they're increasing all those chances to scroll so that we collect the interest longer. But
Yeah, yeah.
Not the goal. We want to get it
Per
back.
minute, if it's per minute, you're doing okay. Well, so, gosh, hopefully, if that grows big enough, we can just endow the state and just run off the money of the interest of the money sitting in the unclaimed.
It'll have to grow a ways, but anyway.
And so, you know, in your job and trying to help get these dollars back to people, you guys have done a good job. You've created a site, I mean, about everything you can do. And I know that you've gone around the state and make visits like these just to make sure people are aware. It's not like the state's trying to hide this money. You're doing everything you can to.
And our legislators have helped. I know our legislators have sent out, I don't know how many hundred letters to people where they've tried and worked to verify addresses, and some of them do come back, but hundreds did not come back. So the legislators have been a huge help. Our county treasurers have also been a huge help. That large case that I mentioned would not have happened without our county treasurer in that county holding their hand and walking them through that process. So we've got a good team of people who really are working to help people find it. And the great news is that everyone can do it. You can go on and search. Normally it doesn't take as long as it took us to get through this morning. But put in the name of an old business. Put in a maiden name. Search in other areas. If Liberal hasn't always been your home, if there's another city that you lived in, check those out. And 1 in 7 people have unclaimed property. So usually you don't have to go terribly far to find something.
So how does that end up, like, if someone owed someone in Kansas money and they can't find them, do they just say, look, we're just writing a check to the state treasurer and let them deal with it, or how does that work?
That's pretty much it. So, and it does happen somewhat legitimately. The first one tends to be child goes off to college, they move from there, the utility deposit doesn't catch up with them. That's the first one that tends to come back. Some I cannot explain. There are payments. When I was in Garden City, there were some payments to the county treasurer from a bank in Garden City that wound up in unclaimed. I know they know where each other was, right? How did that happen? What disconnect occurred? So sometimes that happens, and when it is there, there's a certain time that the payer has to make their balance sheets balance. A lot of times it may be checks that aren't cashed.
Oh, yeah.
Those then get sent to the state, and we hold it in unclaimed.
Sure. Well, and you know, this is one of the things that, you know, you handle on behalf of the people, and you guys do a good job of getting the word out on that. What are some other things that are some of your bigger obligations, some of the things that you have to handle for the state?
Well, the bigger obligations is managing the money. So right now, in addition to the normal float and that $3 billion and the rainy day fund, we have close to $9 billion with about 1.1 from local governments that we manage in that cash pool. And so that has been the dollars that we've invested ongoing as they flow through the state entity. Our PMIB board has done a great job of that. We have a great director who handles that day to day, and that's a big responsibility. But that is what generated the $400 million in interest. So that's a big help. Sitting on the other boards and how dollars are invested are the big part. In terms of programs, the reason that we came out to Liberal was in a partnership with a couple of other entities to try and get the word out on our ABLE savings program. So that is specifically for folks who have a disability, and it provides a way that they can save and invest in a tax advantage way to better plan for the future. For folks with a severe disability, so if you qualify under the Social Security definition of disability, and if you qualify for benefits, which may be critical to be able to get the services that are needed, there is a limitation on assets of $2,000. And that is pretty hard to operate within.
Sure.
So the ABLE account was passed by Congress in 2014 to allow a way to save, to be able to plan for expenses, whether it was healthcare expenses, transportation, education, housing, a variety of things to just either get through the next month or actually have a chance to be financially independent through life. So that program, we partnered with the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities, who works with the population and trying to figure out ways to meet the needs, as well as the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services. That's the entity that provides the services. So they know who they are. The Kansas Council is focused on how do we serve them better. And we have these accounts that we open, and they had the vision, we're all going to get together. We're going to figure out who the people are from the Kansas Department. The Kansas Council has done the funding and the vision, et cetera, and we are just trying to meet and sit down with people and say, does this account fit for you? So my ask here, so now you're back on the site if you want to switch there.
Yeah, I'll.
If it switches up, I won't take
Again.
you back to that same spot.
Well, what I'm doing is I put the link. I
Oh.
put the link in
Oh.
down below, so that if anyone just wants to click on that, they'll be able to go. Do you want me to stay here? Or you want me to go to the very beginning?
If you tab again over to the one that was the open screen of the Kansas Treasurer, the one back from there.
We'll go right here to the beginning.
Yeah.
Let me switch so people can.
That back to kansascash.ks.gov, and right next to the unclaimed icon, if you scroll down a hair, is savings programs. And in savings programs, these are our other programs. So I was just talking about the ABLE program, and if we have time, we'll talk about the others. But if folks were interested, same site, go here. It will tell you about it. It will tell you what the account is, why it is there. If you know someone with a loved one who is disabled, tell them to go look at that. It is a chance to be able to plan. There are limits that are there. I won't try and bore everyone with those limits, but you can get a state income tax deduction for contributions to these accounts up to $3,000. The earnings grow tax-free. All of these tools I am really excited about, and I've really enjoyed working with the Treasurer's Office because there are ways that we can empower people to be self-reliant financially. And that's the goal of each of these. That's why they were set up by the state legislature. And we want to make sure that people identify to see where, and it does not help everyone. It does not fix every problem. But maybe our goal with this particular effort, we have 5,100 people on the intellectual and developmental disability wait list. There is a meaningful number of those who could be well served by this account. If we picked up 2,000 of those, that would double the number of our accounts in Kansas, which would be a small start at reaching the audience that we'd like to reach. And that's our goal, is to get the word out. I appreciate the chance just to tell all of your viewers about that, to spread the word as we can.
I want to mention that Shannon got on here and said that he wished that Liberal Plaza was his, but he doesn't have any companies named that. He says he's tried years to find out who that is. But I mean, he owns the plaza, the Liberal Plaza, but there's another company called that, and so they've got some money coming to them. I saw Merit Energy, and so, you know, Shannon, you may know, you know, Merit Energy, and I know that even the newspaper, sometimes I get a phone call and I think that they were looking to dissolve, but there was a company of some Southwest Kansas Royalties Association or something like that. But years ago, the newspaper was part of that thing. And so they still have a meeting and they say, you want to come? I'm like, I don't even know what it is. But, you know, so there's these organizations that things just get lost.
It does.
Over time.
It does. And thanks to Representative Francis again for hooking me up today with you, and also for watching and knowing he has done a lot of work in this area searching that list. So I was going to be a little surprised if he happened to have one.
Yeah, I'm sure Shannon, you know, he's a pretty smart money guy.
Yeah.
He would have, if there was something out there, he probably already had cleaned that up. But just seeing that Liberal Plaza, and obviously he knows about it because he said he's trying to find out who that is. I know, I'm not telling Shannon anything, but if you are curious, if you do know the name of an organization, you can go, I think, to the Secretary of State's website, and you can put that in, and sometimes you can find some information about that, because our church, we were looking for original articles of incorporation from like the 30s or something. You can find it at the state Secretary of State's. You know, you go to that, you put in the name, you get the links and whatever documents they have, and I was able to print that out and take that back to our church, because we went to the safety deposit box, we couldn't find it, the original charter thing, the articles of incorporation.
Yeah.
But we have it now.
And they've really worked to upgrade those computer systems, which were really old, and get that data there and make it accessible.
Yeah, do you remember years ago, what was the site where during COVID we got hacked as a state and some people were making claims and that?
That was the Department of Labor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what we needed was two-factor authentication.
Oh, you needed bicycles, and which ones are the tires?
Well, actually, you needed to send the code to your cell phone to come back in.
Yeah.
When that was implemented in January, problems were arising through August. When that was implemented over a weekend in January, claims went down 90% just by implementing two-factor authentication. Absolutely needed to be done a lot earlier than that.
Do you remember there were some numbers floated around depending on, I guess, who you were, but do you remember what the state lost on that?
State lost between 300 and 400 million, and the total loss was between 600 and 700 million.
And I know states like California were getting hit up.
They
too.
were. Our per capita rate is unacceptable. That was a huge drop of the ball at that point in time. And security is necessary, and that was a case where it fell apart.
Yeah, I had a former employee. He had a medical emergency. Ended up having to have his leg removed at the knee, but couldn't work, and had to file unemployment or something, and couldn't. During that time period, here's a guy who literally had a claim, who was literally unable to work and couldn't get through, and then all of these fraudulent ones were getting checks.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable how that was working like that. But we fixed that, right?
Yes, so that was fixed in January of that year. Slowly we got better at processing real claims, but that was a big challenge for every legislator at the time to try and work through that system for legitimate people. And yeah, a lot of, it certainly was a big challenge. It wasn't easy. There were good people who were working on it, but there were big mistakes that were made.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us, and we've got the link on right down below, so you can click on that and put in your name and your address, and who knows what you may find at the State Treasurer's Office, a check maybe waiting for you. So don't miss doing that. Secretary, we'll give you the last word here. What do you want people to know here? Anything you want. I'll give you the
Great.
last word.
Well, thanks. It is great to get to be with you. It's great to get out across Kansas, because despite what all of these things are so much bigger than us. The Treasurer's Office works because I have great staff, and I am thankful for each of them across the fiscal, unclaimed. I have a great IT department, so we have really focused on security there because of the issues. That doesn't reflect on this particular screen, but I am appreciative of what everybody does to keep our economy going and keep our state growing.
Well, and we appreciate the efforts that you're making to make Kansas fiscally responsible, and that you're taking care of the checkbook on our behalf. And anytime you're in Liberal, feel free to stop by. We'd love to have you back.
I'll look forward to it. Great to be here.
And we got some more news and views we're going to bring to you, and we're going to do that right after this. Fall off the bone ribs, dripping with our signature barbecue sauce. Tender pulled pork and brisket smoked to perfection. All served with family recipe home-style sides. It's all waiting for you at the Brick House Barbecue and Brew. Open 7 days a week, your barbecue appetite can be satisfied anytime for lunch or dinner. Brick House serves full dinners, combos, sandwiches, and take-home packs. Enjoy a variety of brews on tap or a mixed drink, shaken, not stirred. Give your taste buds a treat at Brick House Barbecue and Brew, 24 East 2nd Street in Liberal. Like us on Facebook and see our full menu at brickhouselk.com. Well, Jim, unfortunately, you weren't on the list.
That's right, but I know some folks that were.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised, and B said he found some of his family that was on that list. So go down there and check that out.
Yeah.
You know, next time I see Jerry and Dave Rice, I'm going to have to tell them they might have a little surprise coming. That was a couple of them. There was another one on there. There was Arthur. I don't know who Arthur is, but if you know somebody that's named Arthur Rice, why, you know, tell him check out that website. They might have, you know, $6 or $8 or $10 coming.
Who knows?
So that'd be kind of fun. And then, like he mentioned, he said, you know, put in some of your, you know, your maiden name, or, you know, maybe the name of your parents or your grandparents or something like that, because they've been doing this since, what did he say, 1970 something? So, you know, but there's opportunity there for, and it's $600 million. That's a lot of dollars out there that belong to somebody. And so do a little checking on there. Those things are always kind of fun to see. But I told him check mine out, and you know there wasn't anything, which I wasn't really surprised. But
You're like Shannon. You've cleaned it up.
yeah,
You
yeah, we keep our money spent, don't we, Shannon? We don't leave it laying around.
I do want to give an update on some information of the situation with the two women that were murdered over here in the Panhandle. They were actually from Kansas, of course, and they were going to pick up children, and one of them was a representative of the state to help with that situation. I want to just make sure I get their names so that I give you the right information. Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly were the two that were murdered, but Tiffany Adams, who was the grandmother of Veronica's children, has taken responsibility for the murders. She has said that, according to some reporting by the Daily Oklahoman. But another key part of the reporting I want to share is by the state chief medical examiner, Dr. Eric Pfeiffer. They're determining the cause of death, but they said that the bodies were not shot. So that is not how they died. So hopefully here in the next couple of days we'll find out exactly what was the method used. But I think that a lot of this is still going to have an effect on obviously the trial, but what punishment these people may face. And there's been talk of a hammer found at the location and other things, but we'll hold speculation until we find out exactly what the method of death. We know tasers were purchased, and how much damage can be done by a taser. There's still a lot of questions, but I thought getting that bit of information out there that they were not shot. So have you seen or any other new information you're aware of?
No, not really. Things have been rather quiet, and so I don't know. And I'm sure that they're not going to release all of that on account of jury selection, those kind of things. And so anyway, but at least they found the folks that were responsible, or they believe they were responsible anyway. And if Granny says she was the responsible individual, well then, so be it. But gosh, I just can't think how you could ever think like that, even though you didn't want your grandkids to, end up, with mom for a day or two. I mean, what in the world made that difference? Wow, I don't know.
Well, and the parents of there was a 16-year-old of the Twombleys, or I think the mother of the Twombleys. I don't think that Mr. Twombly was her dad, but anyway, they were interviewing her. These investigators were interviewing her when the Twombleys showed up and confronted law officials on why they were even talking to her and that kind of thing. But a lot of information came from that interview in the affidavit, and they were not happy that, and I can see why. Because they were pretty much sharing, the plot, the scheme, the time frame, what was happening, cleaning up the vehicle, why this other woman had to die, all this stuff. It's just, like I say, we'll continue to learn, but at least it sounds like the grandmother, who I think, was the ringleader of the whole thing, it sounds like, and if she's, that, but I think the cat's out of the bag as far as it's too late to fall on the sword now. These other people have been involved, and I don't think that she can now say, well, I'll just take all the blame. I think they're all in.
Yeah, I think they all had a hand in it one way or the other, and so we'll just have to see. But it's just hard to believe.
Yep. B, you have any response reaction? Not shot, according to the chief medical examiner of the state of Oklahoma. And that the grandmother is taking responsibility for it. How do you think those play as this thing moves forward?
I'm glad that they weren't shot, but they still, the fact that they're dead. I mean, from the sounds of what this was planned, it's probably a brutal death, no matter how they died, whether it's shot or not. But and the grandma taking responsibility. I'm sure that she's probably the ringleader, and all the others were complicit with it. So they knew about it, so they had to be part of the program. I'm still interested to know about the fifth party. They talked about being a suspect that hasn't been brought up yet, but it seemed like a lot of things that are still unanswered, and it'll be interesting to know all the details once they come out. But I think people are interested and want to know if this thing happening locally, and people care, people concerned about this family and what about both families and what's happened to all of them. It'll be good to know all the details once it's finalized.
Yeah, and again, it's not to try to sensationalize it. don't try to attack the media because they're just muckrakers. They're trying. We just want to know so the public can know, so maybe we can see the signs and prevent things like these from ever happening to another family again. And you're not going to get that through rumors. You got to get that through the facts. And you know, someone going and buying all these tasers, you know, I mean, I've thought about for my daughters making sure they have something to protect themselves off at college, you know, and things like that. So you know, a taser or whatever you want to look at is you know, available to the public. I guess, you know, you can get one of those, but you know, using those for a nefarious purpose, or you know, they were going to, you know, according to, you know, one of the interviewees in the affidavit, you know, was planning on using an anvil. You know, I mean, that would have been a very painful, excruciating, gruesome.
All the things I would have thought about is how to eliminate somebody. An anvil would have never ever been involved. I mean, wow, there's some crazy thinking going on there, but you know, no, they had been kind of thinking about this for a good long spell, and I think you know, a lot of the search history on Granny's computer, apparently they checked out pretty close, and you know, found a lot of interesting things that she had searched for, and how to do this and that, and you know, what to use, and you know, and all that. So you know, this was kind of I think probably a planned event. You know, a long-term planned event, but gosh, I mean, wouldn't you ever think about the consequences of, you know, when they catch me? Not when. I mean, not if, but when. You know, I'm going to spend a long time behind bars, and you know, and Oklahoma has a death penalty, so you know, I might not spend as long behind bars as I could have. I mean, it could be all over, you know, in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, which is a long time. But I mean, gosh, you got to think about, you know, the consequences of such an act. But apparently, you know, I guess the hate overruled the consequences, and I don't know.
Well,
But there's more to come, I'm sure.
there's of course the drama going on with trying to pick a jury in the trumped up charges in Manhattan. You have 2 jurors now have been eliminated. One on their own said, you know, after sleeping on it, I just don't think I can be fair. And I got to say, I respect the lady for at least admitting that.
Yeah.
I wish everybody would do that. If they feel like they cannot be fair, don't serve on the jury. Even on the local level, if you do not feel you can be fair, don't serve on the jury. But I'm concerned of one person that did get on the jury who said that they don't like Trump, they don't like his attitude, they don't like his demeanor, but they could be fair and impartial.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't like somebody and you don't like the way they talk, you're not already biased.
Yeah, the odds is kind of stacked against you just a little bit. You
The
know,
other
from
person
very
that was
beginning.
dismissed, they did some research on and found out some more information. Someone who said that they were fair and impartial, and you find out on their website and stuff that they weren't so fair and impartial. But these guys, I mean, and the defense is going to have to scrupulously go through these people and find out. You know, here's just some information. Foreman was a salesman from Harlem. Gets his news from liberal and conservative outlets. Juror 2 was dismissed. Juror 3, young Asian lawyer from Oregon. His corporate law firm features DEI advocacy on the homepage. There's one shooting down the middle, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oregon was a strike right there.
Juror number 4 was dismissed, and he's the one that they had to, he said He didn't have any, no, he didn't have any posts or anything like that. When they found him, he was like, who's got this information on me? Who's looking, it's like, I'm telling you, everything you do is public.
That's a
They-
fact.
They
If
will
you don't,
find
if
it.
you don't believe there's anything about you on the World Wide Web, just type in your name in the search engine. Put in your name and your town and see what comes up.
Juror number 5 is a black woman in her 20s who doesn't follow the news and didn't know Trump was facing any legal action. She lives in Harlem, is a teacher, not married, lives with her brother, and gets her news from Google and TikTok.
Those are both good sources.
Juror number 6 is a Disney employee. Her primary concern is that the trial might not end before September when her sister gets married. So
There you go.
she wants to get this done quick. Juror number 7 is a middle-aged white man who lives on the Upper East Side. He's a lawyer whose firm supports DEI and ESG initiatives. He's also an NPR listener.
It's better.
And according to Town Hall, this is Town Hall's words, by this pool, Trump is screwed, which is why the narrative that this trial is rigged will resonate and linger for many months ahead. These are the people getting on the jury.
Yeah.
These are on.
Yep. Well, one of those two that quit yesterday, I don't know which one it was, that said that they were scared their identity would be disclosed.
That was the one
Yeah.
woman, but the other one didn't. The judge had to dismiss him because he had anti-Trump stuff and had pictures of him at parties for Biden's election and all this, and he was trying to get on the jury.
Well, I think
And
DEI would run pretty close to anti-Trump stuff.
Yeah, well, that runs anti to any white person stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is critical race theory at the core, and it sounds great, diversity, equity, inclusion, but the way that they get there is by slamming white people and colonialism and all this other stuff. We've been living on this. I mean, we're about to celebrate. We're a couple of years away from the country's 250th anniversary. Think about that.
A republic, if you can keep it.
And we're still talking about colonialism. Tell me what part of the world was not colonized by someone. And the Native Americans who came here were not native to America. They came from Asia over the Bering Strait. So they were native to Asia. And they weren't native to Asia before they made the trip from Eurasia. We talked about the other day with Todd a little bit about the cradle of humanity starting at the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Yeah.
So other than that, you're not native to anywhere else on this planet. You traveled there from somewhere. Africa was settled, Asia, Europe, Australia. How did life just show up on Australia? Or was that colonized? Oh yeah, it was colonized because people had to get on a boat to get there. Every island. So don't tell me that there's a native anything to anywhere or that anyone else who showed up at any other time is somehow the evil one when everyone showed up to somewhere from somewhere else. But for some reason in America, they're just discovering this as if this is some new fact to them and they just got to, this is their cause. They just have to have some cause instead of realizing, how about the cause is you look at some people who maybe you can help live a better life today by teaching them something or making sure they've got good schools, making sure they've got an opportunity to get a good job. How about that? How about we put our energy onto that?
Well, that's a thing of the past. Government will take care of you. Don't worry about getting a job.
How about yesterday, I asked B this, yesterday the UN tried to pass a resolution recognizing Palestine as an independent nation. And surprisingly, the U.S. vetoed that. But that they're even considering that. What do you think of that?
Nothing surprises me anymore. There's always something's going to happen that is going to shock somebody. It's like, where did it come from? I mean, whose idea was it, and why? And you can't be surprised by what's happening anymore around this world because it's going to shock you somewhere.
Well, you know, I think that that's a good place for funding to be reduced, if not eliminated, but certainly reduced. You know, the World Health Organization is another one that I think, you know, they're pretty much world control of. They're going to be your doctor, you know, and they're going to, you know, call the shots. You know, we're getting close to that. You know, a lot of those agencies, you know, supposedly for the betterment of the world, are turning out to be anti-American and what we stand for, and you know, Congress should be taking a look at that, but they're not. I mean, it's very evident from the current budget that they're passing all every day and all of that. They're not worried about that. They just give everybody more money, more money. More money will solve the problem. Well, look what more money has done. You know, this morning I was reading about Iran. Of course, Israel attacked Iran, but you would never know it because Iran won't admit to anything. Everything's great this morning, but you know, they were talking about how the oil production, the millions and the billions of dollars that, you know, that increased oil production has brought to Iran. But, you know, we're sitting here with a Congress and an administration that has no consideration as long as I get more money in my campaign fund and, you know, from the lobbyists and all of that. That's what it's all about. It's all about the power and the, you know, the money. And, you know, Congress refuses basically to do anything to it. There's a very few of those representatives up there that are trying to do something, but they're so outnumbered by their own party members and the opposition that they virtually can't do anything. But it's all about the power and the money and, you know, funding things like the UN. I think a serious look needs to be taken to that and reduce that considerably.
Well, in some of the protests yesterday, again, attacking Israel, some of the marchers said, "We are Hamas. We are Hamas."
Well, they need to send them over there.
This is in the streets. Hamas is a declared terrorist organization. I mean, that is official American policy. So if someone's claiming to be a member of Hamas right over here marching in the streets, is that arrestable? I mean, they're saying, I am a terrorist. According to the U.S. government, Hamas is a terrorist organization. And if you're claiming to be a member, let's think about what's going on over here in Hughton. We're hearing a lot about a separatist movement. We're wanting to find out more about this God's Misfits group and other things like that. Remember those guys here in town that were part of a plot to do harm to some Muslims in Garden City. And they were looking at what groups and organizations were they involved with. They some kind of militia and this and that. You hear about the Proud Boys and all of this. So if this person is claiming to be, we are Hamas, do we want Hamas just marching in our streets?
Well, apparently so, because they didn't do anything to stop it.
I mean, you know, I mean, it's not just anti-Israel, it's pro-Hamas. They then support the murder of the 1,200 people that day. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, but there's an exhibit in New York City, the October 7th exhibit. They have brought over, you remember where that one concert was going on? They brought over the tents and the stuff that was in the tents exactly the way that they were. They brought over some of the burned out cars with bullet holes. They brought over the porta potties where people ran in there to hide and the bullet holes throughout those. I mean, not remakes. They brought that stuff over and then they put pictures on a wall of all of the ones who were killed there, and some of the survivors are there with the exhibit. It's like we forgot all of that. That's just one of the many where they just went in and they didn't look for military targets. They went to people's homes and were shooting up people. Cut off a mother's breast in front of her child. You know, raping people at this concert and other things, breaking their bones, I mean, brutally attacking these people. That's Hamas. That's what Hamas did. And this exhibit is up in New York City to remind people exactly what happened to them that day. And now you got people marching saying, we are Hamas in America and in New York City. What's your thoughts on that?
I think sometimes we, as Americans, we get in the comfort zone thinking that all that stuff happens elsewhere. But when it comes here, I think sometimes we're taken aback by, is that really possible? And I see it on the media and I think, well, it's just the media showing that and it's not really here. It's not in my little local hometown. But it's closer than you think. People need to understand that can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's in New York City or Detroit, Michigan, or any of the big cities around this country. It can happen in little towns too. All it takes is a small fraction of people, just like the Scott Misfits that did the destruction to 2 families in over by Hugoton. I mean, that's just a small thing that's happened, but you take it to a bigger scale, you get enough people to do it, it can happen anywhere, anytime. And we need to be very vigilant about what's going on in our country right now and understand that, hey, we could be a target at any time.
Yeah. And, we kind of mentioned colonialism just a second ago. Well, on the Dr. Phil show, they were talking about these squatters. And guess what? A guest has come on to explain that it's okay to squat and stuff because of colonialism. She claims if you own 1,000 acres and someone comes and just starts using 5 of it and none of it has been used, what's wrong with that? And they're like, because someone else owns that. Dr. Phil asked this lady, and her name is a real estate agent named Christine, argued that adverse possession can be justified because of colonialism. But Dr. Phil said, you said that if I've got 100 acres or 1,000 acres and somebody goes and gets in a corner of it and adversely possesses 5 acres of it, I'm not going to miss it. I've got 1,000 acres anyway. She said, well, yeah. Can you tell me if you're looking at 1,000 acres, could you tell me what 5 acres was? And Dr. Phil said, hell yes.
That's exactly right.
But it's somebody else's. Now, what I would say to Christine is you can try to take it, but it's called theft. We have laws for that. Now, people have fought over land for centuries. And right
inches of land.
Yeah. Well, right now,
Boundary
we might be
lines.
giving it away for free because we don't even have a border, and just flooding in our nation, resources having to be put aside for tens of millions of people who shouldn't even be here. Chicago's looking for another $350 million or something that they're going to have to increase taxes to fund this, and the people there are livid about it. But that's what the mayor is saying. And so, is that not theft? That
Sure.
$350 million resources having to go from indigenous people to non-indigenous people that's just being taken from them. Look, you want to come try to take my property, you can try, but we can go to court, we can battle out that way, but if you're in my house, I will evict you physically. We'll deal with the aftermath later, but I'll get you out of my house. If I don't want you in my house, you won't be in my house. It's pretty simple. So, what do you think about this claim that if you had 1,000 acres, maybe you had 1,000 acres. I don't know how many acres you did have. You had a few.
Yeah.
If you just missed 5 of them because someone else decided to just go over, would you care? Would that? Why should
Absolutely
that
you
bother
would.
you at all?
That's the reason you bought it, because you wanted to control what went on it. Whether it was, and I did sell off one corner to a couple that wanted to move a house in and one thing or another. Yeah, but that was my own decision. But you don't just own land or even a lot in town. And somebody come in and pitch a tent on it or drag a mobile home in there or whatever. You don't do things like that. It's called property rights. And, you know, for her to, apparently she didn't own any land, or if she did, she didn't appreciate what she had.
She's a real estate agent.
Yeah, but, you know, and, you know, all she's looking for is one more piece to sell so she can get the commission off of it. But anyway, you know, there are such things as property rights. And once you own it, then you have a right to say what happens with it. And, you know, if you've got a squatter comes in and sits down on one corner or right out in the middle of it, you have the right to say, no, you can't do that, get going. But, you know, these nuts like this, they just don't appreciate what we've got. And you know, well, those poor people, they need a place to be. Well, they had a place to be. Why didn't they stay home then? You know, I mean, I don't know, you know, how are we going to house 12 million people in this country, newcomers? You know, we can't even house what we've got right now. And how are we going to house and feed and provide jobs for 10, 12, 15 million people that don't speak our language, that don't understand the American way? And, you know, especially for squatters, my gosh, you know, that just shows the disregard for anything that you have. Anything you have is theirs.
Well, what's the difference between if you just say, you know, I've had it with Kansas, I'm just going to walk away from what I have here, and I'm going to go to New York. And I'm just going to walk in and say, New York, I'm here now. I need you to take care of me for now until.
That's right.
Yeah. What's the difference between you doing that and someone coming from some South American country doing it?
Yeah.
Or China, or the Middle East, because we don't know who's coming across that border. We're not even checking them.
That's right.
So what's the difference of you doing? Why can't you just do it?
I guess I could, but I'm not going to. You know, I kind of appreciate what I have here.
Well, if you just show up in New York,
know?
will they put you up in a motel?
It's doubtful. I seriously doubt that. You know,
Will they give you a credit card?
We've all been a lot of places, and I don't ever remember getting a free hotel room out of any one of them. You know?
B, if you just show up in New York and say, you know, I've tried this thing, this Kansas thing, it's not working out for me. I'm going to just show up. I'm going to show up in San Francisco tomorrow morning, and they're just going to take care of me.
Yep.
I mean, what's the difference between you doing it or somebody out of the country doing it?
I can't get, I got white privilege, so they won't allow me to have all that. So that's for those people that's coming here that want to make a better way for themselves. So I've already been here, so that I'm kind of left out in the cold. That's kind of the way it works. You know?
So they would be judging you by the color of your skin.
Exactly.
And here's the thing. If you wouldn't do it for your own people, why are we doing this for people that we didn't even vet? We don't know where they came from. They're putting out videos talking about how to cheat the system, how to squat in someone's property, and now we got our own people that support that kind of that. And here's the thing. Because Republicans have said, no, we're not for this, that automatically Democrats took the exact opposite point of view. Well, then we are for it, and we'll justify it any way possible. Republicans are against squatters and taking someone's property, and we believe in individual property rights. So the Democrats now have taken the equal opportunity. This is the problem with this partisan thing, that everything, once one side declares for or against this, the other side says that we are exactly the opposite. We shouldn't do it. There's some things we ought to be able to agree on.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You own your home. It's your home. That's your property. You own that. The original draft of the Declaration said people have the right to life, liberty, and property. They changed that to pursuit of happiness, to broaden it. Not just property, but anything you want to do that makes you happy, you should be able to pursue it. And they're taking someone's property. That property rights is a cornerstone to this country versus kingdoms, where the king can own anything and everything and everyone.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're headed. But I was just thinking here, what's the difference between, me owning it, half section or, 10,000 acres or something, and somebody coming in and just setting up shop, then that lady's house, where she probably, since she's a realtor, she's probably got a fairly nice house, perhaps a spare bedroom or two. Why not just, allow that spare bedroom to become the bedroom of somebody that decided they want to live in that house when she comes home that evening, and there's a squatter in there. Of course, she probably don't call them squatters, but just suppose that she would just love that. That, oh gosh, I'm just thinking all of the good I'm doing here. I'm going to provide them a place to live, and probably a meal or two a day, and access to the washing machine and the internet, and the kitchen, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's really no different. But that's kind of where we're headed, I think, is that they are going. If you've got and I've been hearing this for some time. If you've got a spare bedroom in your house, that Uncle Sam's going to come along one of these days and say, well, we got to house these people and we can't afford to do it anymore. We can't rent the DoubleTree Hotel in Denver anymore. So all you folks in Denver that's got a spare bedroom, we're going to take those folks out and we're going to put, one or two or three or four people in that spare bedroom for you. And that's kind of where we're headed. Now, that might sound far out. That might sound like I need to go to the loony bin, but I'm telling you, with the kind of thinking that she's got, that it's okay for somebody to come in. If you've got a house or 10,000 acres, it's okay for somebody to come and camp out, move in. That's the kind of thinking that is going to bring this country down really quick.
That's just it. If you own your home, it's your home.
That's right.
You
bought it for a reason, to
Yeah.
live in it. You didn't buy it for, somebody else to live in it.
and whether you have an extra room or not, I told my daughters, I told Reagan, I said, I have some ideas for your room once you're gone, and it rhymes with sauna. But she said, no, you're not. That's my room.
There you go.
and no matter where she goes in life or whatever, she'll always have all your kids always
Sure.
have a place they want.
That's right.
If they need to come back home for whatever reason or
Yep.
whatever, you got a place for them, right?
You bet.
That's your call.
That's
And-
the reason you might, later on, you might not want them kids to come home as often, like, dang, you're here today, how many days you going to be here? But anyway, you kind of get to that stage. But anyway, that's the reason that folks have, a home with 3-4 bedrooms, is because the kids come home from time to time, and, you've got a place for them to stay, or,
And
local-
besides, someone saying, why do you have that? That's none of your, welcome to America.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain why you have
Yeah.
2 or 3 or 4 bedrooms.
Maybe Uncle Bonzo, if cannibals didn't eat him, they might want to come. He might want to come and stay.
And if someone else wants a house with 2 or 3 or 4 bedrooms, that's up to them. They want one with 1 bedroom, that's up to them.
That's right. It's your choice.
Get out, keep your nose, they talk about jealousy. That's what Katie Couric was talking about, that people are that support Trump are just jealous of other people that have things, or, this. Are you kidding me?
No,
Are you kidding me?
no.
They're like, we want it to be where you can go shoot for the moon.
That's right. I want to work just as hard to get what he's got as.
Yeah, and instead of saying, well, I should have a better life than I have, but because this guy has so much. No, that has nothing to do. What someone has nothing to do with what you have.
He worked for it.
You can have whatever it is that
He
you choose
worked
to work
for
for. Maybe. You also have to have some skill. You also have to have some talent. You also have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I see some cars pull up at Sunday Spanish Bakery and all this. Those guys are up early. They stay late. They're burning the oil. They're trying
That's right.
to work and better themselves. And who gets to tell them, well, you shouldn't have to do it that way? or it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to work that hard to get ahead.
How about you got to hand out 20% of your production freebies to, you know, some poor guy walking down the street?
Yeah, you know,
Same thing.
or let them come in at night and sleep in your place because you're not there at night. So that you should let these people come in at night. It's not your place to decide what someone else is willing to do to get ahead, or to complain about, well, he shouldn't have to. There's no shortcut to success. It takes blood, sweat, and tears. Everything you've got. Everything you've got.
Well, that's the difference between rural America and urban America, you know, in a lot of cases.
Well, I've talked to some people, they're retired now, and they worked for other people their whole life, but they're very talented at what they do. And I said, why don't you ever go out on your own? You know, you could have done this. And they're like, well, you know, I had bills and I wanted to make sure I had a check coming in. And
Like that security.
yeah, so you traded that risk. You weren't willing to risk. You had the talent, you had the ability, had the skill, but somebody else took the risk, and now you're working for them, and you like getting that savings. You like doing that. That's fine. That's a lot of people have made that choice. But then don't knock the guy who took every chance in the world to go out on his own and do it. I know two brothers. One, they were both involved with the automotive industry. One ran his own shop, and the other worked for people, you know, through his whole career. Both good guys. They just made different choices.
What would New York be if Trump hadn't decided to stick his neck out? And, you know, buy a building, change it into apartments, and do that. But where would New York be today?
It'd still be a red light district. It'd still be where prostitution and drugs and all that. He bought buildings in that area, stripped them down to the metal, and rebuilt them from scratch, and brought in high-end clientele and cleaned up those areas. But they're not going to give him credit for that.
And along the way, you know, they had that ice skating rink that didn't work.
Yep.
And they tried, you know, spent bukus of bucks on that, and Trump come along and said, here, let me fix it. And he went in, and with about 30 days, it was up and operating.
Well, they didn't.
You know.
I mean, they asked him. They said, hey, Mr. Trump, we cannot get a skating rink to operate. Could you help us out? And so he stepped in and made it happen. Made it happen. For a fraction of the cost they had already lost. Yeah. They spent millions on it. I think he did it for $600,000-$700,000, got it done.
That's between government efficiency and
Private.
you know, and know-how.
Yeah. And, you know, but somehow he's the evil orange man.
Yeah.
You know. And, yeah, I don't like the way that he talks to some people. I wish he didn't have to do that. But also to get things done, sometimes, you know, you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs.
Yep.
And, you know, he makes the omelet. Whether, you know, if you ask him to make the omelet, I know some other people here in the community, great at what they do. I know some other people who try to micromanage those people, and it never works out well. I tell them, look, if you get this person involved, just tell them what you need done, and don't worry about how it's going to be happening. It will get done. Just leave them alone.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their way of doing things, you know. I mean, you know, all of us has got our way of doing things, and it's certainly not down this single line. It's, you know, you might go this way, you might go that way a little bit, but at the end, it's all going to come together. And, you know, different strokes for different folks, I guess you could say. But these people that are in control and in charge right now, it's their way or the highway. And, you know, a lot of folks are beginning to take the highway, I think.
Well, and I mean, and B can say this, you know, here at the office, I don't tell B how he's got to do his job today. He knows what he's got to do. I don't sit there and hold his hand. If he has a question, he'll come ask me. But I'll say, here's the way you do this. Now go out and say it just like this. Go out and do it just like this. Imagine how that would work. I don't tell the news guys. Say, you know, I may give them some story ideas and say, hey, you know, this is happening. You might want to interview these guys. But then they go out and they do their job.
Yep.
you got to let people do their job and be who they are, and enjoy that they have some ownership in what they're doing and how they do it. You know,
Well, you
and
take pride in that. You take pride in doing your own thing.
yeah,
You know, and if you this is the way you got to do it, well then why don't you just go do it yourself? You know so much about it, you go do it.
and that's the thing is we don't try to micromanage everyone or that. You take the joy out of life. You know, people have to be able to live and do things their way. Now you may have to set some parameters. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's our goal. There you go.
I experience that a little bit every once in a while in my workshop. When the boss comes out, well, look at this. You need to do that. You need to do that. Get out of here and go back to the house.
Yeah. Well, and I was telling B this the other day. You know, when a family comes together, new family, you and your wife, probably you celebrated Christmas in your family a certain way, and she celebrated Christmas with her family a
Yeah.
certain way. You guys had to come together and decide how you were going to do it together, right?
Yep.
We did too. B, did that happen in your?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And so Heather and I, you know, she was from Pennsylvania, I'm from Kansas, and we had some different ways of doing things. The first year and only year we were we were together, we had a live tree, because that's what she always had, is a live tree. But after the work on that live tree and everything like that, ever since we've had an artificial tree. And but she decorates the inside and I decorate the outside. And that's how we compromised on, you know, that's her area and she does great with it. And I don't make any recommendations inside and she doesn't make any recommendations outside. You have to let people be, you know, and have a hand in things. Take ownership, you know, and that's in your house.
Yeah.
That's your house. And to think that someone else, I've seen what has happened to some of these houses that have been squatted, and I couldn't take that if someone came in and did that stuff to my house.
Yeah.
Someone's going to get hurt, I can tell you that. And I'm fine with if I face charges for assault or something, if I have to go into my own house because someone thought they could just move into it, and they've cut holes in the wall, or they've piled a bunch of my stuff up and this, or they're holding a garage sale to sell my stuff off. Some of them have done that.
Yeah.
Someone's getting hurt. You know, and if I have to face charges for that, I'll take that to a jury.
Yep.
But I'm not going to sit there and let somebody else appropriate my property. That's my family's house. That's our safe place. That's our, you know, they say, you know, a man's home is his kingdom. You know, that's yours. That's yours. That's your place.
Right.
And, you know, my grandma, I mean, if I was at my grandma's house, grandma's rules. But grandma knew at my house, for example, there's no smoking in my house. And grandma knew, when she came over, she knew that. And she would never even attempt it. She knew that. I would go over to her house to bring the kids, whatever, and she would, with the kids, she would on her own, you know, not smoke around the kids. We grew up in it, but at her house, that's her rules, right?
Yeah.
And in our house, it was our rules, and you respected that, even in family. Even in family, you have people that come over and just take over your house.
No.
No.
No. Well, you know, I was just thinking. I remember. You know, pride and ownership, and there's something to that. You know, if somebody gives you a house, you know, or even a lot of times, you know, if you rent somebody's house, you just don't respect that and care for it. Not everybody, certainly. You know, I'm fortunate to have some very good renters in my houses, but, you know, they take care of it and work to improve it. But, you know, a lot of times folks just move in and, just like you say, knock holes in the wall, tear the plumbing out, or, you know, whatever it is. But, you know, when the self-help housing program first started here in Liberal, I was fortunate to be the superintendent on the first 3 houses that were built in that program. And today I drive by those 3 houses, you know, every once in a while just to see what they look like and all. and you can tell there's a pride in ownership. I mean, they're kept up, the lawn's mowed, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And the guy next door that just moved in and is renting, it looks like the Dickens. You know, don't care about anybody else's property. They don't mow the grass, they don't take care of the fence, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, there was just something about that, and those folks that got those first 3 houses, they had to provide, I think it was like a third of the labor or something that went into it. I don't remember for sure, but there was some requirements anyway. But they developed a pride of ownership, not only, you know, on the outside, but on the inside. They could go in and say, look, I hung that piece of sheetrock, or I put that piece of tile in the floor, you know, I helped install that faucet in that sink, or, you know, whatever it was, and you appreciate that. But if somebody just gives it to you and you don't have any respect for property, you know, because you never owned any, you didn't have any pride in it, then you could care less. You know, just, you know, what the heck, who cares? It ain't my place, you know, or my car, or, you know, whatever it is. So, you know, and that's used to be the American way. There was a, you know, certainly a want to own something. You know, of course, your buddy Klaus Schwab, you know, he says you'll own nothing and like it. I seriously doubt that. I seriously doubt that. And, you know, if he's the owner of those places, he might have a different opinion once they get through trashing it. But anyway, you know, it's that pride in the American way of life that you can own something. You can own a house, a car, you know, a dog, whatever you want to own. You know, you can do that and take pride in it and improve it and try to make it better. But, you know, who's in charge right now, they could care less about that. If you've got an empty bedroom, well, let's just move somebody in there that don't have that same respect.
Well, I remember my senior year, buying my first vehicle. I had $300, and there was someone selling a Ford Courier pickup for $350. So Grandpa and I went over to look at it and test drove it. My grandpa told the guy, said, "We'll give you $300." And the guy said $325. Said the kids got $300. And so they said $300. So I bought my first vehicle. But, you know, and it was a 72 Ford Courier 4-cylinder pickup. It gave out a little smoke, but that was mine. I owned that thing. I didn't owe anybody a dime. That was my truck.
Yep.
And, you know, there is something about when you own something and you put money out and you have it. You talk about self-help housing. When you lay that tile down or whatever it is that you did, and then someone comes in or their muddy feet, well, you're like, get that off my floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I laid that tile. I put that down, and you're not going to treat it like that. You're going to take care of it
Yeah.
more than you would if it was like, oh yeah, you got muddy shoes in the kitchen. Oh well. You're like, no, get out of here with those shoes. It's yours.
Yep.
And you take care of it, and that's what we all should be. That should be what drives us. Not that, you know, everyone wants to have 50 cars or whatever, but if that's someone's goal, that's their goal. What's that any business of yours? Set your own goal. What do you want in life? Then push for it. I watched this guy video of, he paints cars. Gosh, he does an outstanding job. I wish I could do what he does. He's talented. Trying to remember, underground paint. If you look that up on YouTube, that guy is incredible. But he showed a video the other day. He said, everyone thinks I just got a lot of money because I paint cars and this, that. And he showed at his house, he said, this is where money goes. And he collects up, he buys, I'm trying to think of the square kind of Monte Carlos. You remember when they were kind of square in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
He buys those square kind of cars. He called it a G-frame or something like that. But he had like 5 or 6 of them in a row. And, you know, and they're not $40,000, $50,000 cars. He probably gave a few thousand probably for all of it. But that's his goal. That's what he wants to do with his money. Who is it you to tell someone else whether they want to buy a big house or buy a car or whatever else? Well, you know, why you have that when someone else wants it? Remember the old rules out here. Why did Seymour Rogers come out here? He homesteaded. Back then, no one was settling this area. So what the government said was, look, we want to fill this in. So if you're willing to go live on a piece of property that's got nothing on it and improve it, build a home of your own, work the land, then after 5 years, we'll let you have it.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of people did.
Yeah.
Did you have homesteaders in your family?
No, I think that was prior to them. But, you know, there were a lot of folks that did. Well, I mean, that's, you know, how a lot of Oklahoma was settled was the Sooners. The sooner you get there, the better, you know?
But they had to put sweat equity into it.
Yeah.
They couldn't just claim a bunch of them and then not live on it.
Yeah.
You had to live on it. You had to work it.
Had to take care of it.
You had to improve it.
Yeah,
And in 5 years, it was yours.
yeah.
And a lot of people did that. Where my house is in Liberal right now, I got the abstract. The abstract goes all the way back to the original owner of the land is Seymour Rogers.
Wow.
Really.
Yeah,
Up there.
yeah. So, you know, when people talk about they thought that his property went from Western to Clay, that goes past that. It goes to at least Sherman. I can tell you that. I think it goes to where Kansas would be, because I think he owned what today would be 2nd and Western to 7th and Western to 7th in Kansas to 2nd in Kansas. All of that would have been his homestead.
That'd be about a half section. Close to it anyway.
And because I can show you in my abstract the original owner of the land, and then got cut up, got turned into a plat, a neighborhood, houses, and every owner is in that abstract. My oldest daughter was reading that like a book, and she was like, "These people got a divorce this year, and they had to decide who was getting the house, and da 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 da." And so over the century, my house is over a century old, built in 1911. But all these different people owned it and sold it. And that's the American way. You can own a piece of it. And nothing should prevent you from being able to work for that. If someone wants 5 acres of your land, you'd say, sure, here's how much it is.
That's right. That's right.
Now, if you can go get a banker to loan you that, you can have that 5 acres. Then you're going to work for it like I did, or like my family did. That's the way it works.
Yep.
And, you know, I just don't know. I want to share before we run out of time here that President Biden is making changes to Title IX. If you remember Title IX, that was made to protect women in sports so that they have equal opportunity in education, equal opportunity athletically. Well, he's trying to shore up the LGBTQ vote, and so he's making changes to Title IX. But he stopped short of schools, you know, not letting schools be able to ban it if they want to. Schools can still do that. So, but he's you know, putting all this stuff about sexual harassment and assault claims against LGBTQ. Look, sexual assault is already a crime. Sexual harassment is already a crime. But what they're saying is, hey, this boy shouldn't be swimming in the girls. Well, is that sexual harassment? I don't think so. I think the sexual harassment is, you know, a person with certain body parts being in the locker room with other people that don't have that body part. I think that those people can be the ones who are put in a bad situation. But what's your thoughts on changing Title IX to include LGBTQ as a protected class, where women were the ones who were supposed to be making sure they had equal opportunity?
Well, it's just a step, you know. I mean, he's going to make the complete change, you know, eventually. But it's just like they always do. They just encroach a little bit. You don't, you know, you don't take the whole thing all at once, but you just take that step. And so he's working toward the goal. And you know, whatever his goal might be, that was a, you know, a small portion of where he's headed. That's the way a lot of this stuff is. They just do, well, let's just do it. Let's just move this goalpost just a little bit. And the first thing you know, why, they've moved it clear to the other end of the field. But you know, I think that's probably what he's attempting to do. And he's looking to buy votes, you know, or encourage folks to vote for him on account of things like that. And that's, you know, a lot of this stuff that's going on is in order to encourage people to vote for him. And so he's making changes to a lot of these policies. You know, why do you think he continues to insist that he wants to forgive student loans even though the Supreme Court said, no, that's illegal and you can't do it? And he comes back and tries it again. You know, that's because he wants to secure that vote. And, you know, so that's, you know, part of what all this is all about. If it came down to common sense, you know, that's a whole nother story.
So B, what's your thoughts?
I don't think I'm allowed to say it on the air.
Yeah.
You know, all this stuff with the LGBTQ is gotten so out of hand with allowing men to be involved with women's sports and all those other things. I just can't believe that we're falling for so much of it, and we're allowing it to happen, because it's just totally wrong. I mean, a man's a man, a woman's a woman, and there's no in between. No matter how they try to make it, it ain't going to happen. It's never happened I mean, God created two of us, man and woman, and that's the way it's been for a long time. And I hate to see what they're trying to do to blend it. It's just crazy.
Well, and now you got kids claiming to be animals, and they need to be treated like a cat or a dog or a horse. This is their identity. And what do you think was going to happen when you start saying, look, you know, they call it gender dysphoria, whatever you want to call it. If you think that, well, I think, well, you may think that, but physical evidence tells you a different story. What you're thinking, you need to plan your thinking around what the physical truth is. Just is, you know. But we're going to let you, welcome to America. You can think whatever, but at some point, society has to step in and say, I don't have to play this game with you. No, I'm not going to treat you like a cat in class. I'm going to treat you like a human being, which you are. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to treat you like something else. You know, this is who you are. Now, mom wants you to wear makeup to school or whatever. You know, that's between you and your mom or whatever. But you know, here we're going to teach math and science and English, and quit getting around all this other things that have nothing to do with what's going to get you a job in the future. You know, we're so far off the beaten path, you know, and it's going to take some rattling of cages to get back on. But the media is complicit in it. Sure. You've got one political party that's complicit in it. Instead of really helping people look ahead to their future and how to make their life better, we're so tied up in all of this, you know, sexual stuff. And, you know, it's not going to give you a better future. Knowing how to do math will give you a better future. Knowing how to do science and English, and how to be an accountant, how to be a construction worker, how to be a plumber, how to be a teacher. All of those things are skills that may pay off in your future, but this whole gender dysphoria stuff, this whole you're just in the wrong body, you know, all of that stuff. You're not. The one thing that's not wrong is nature. Your body is what it is. Now everything else moves from there. It's not about, I'm not trying to sell my faith or whatever. Go straight to science. Go straight to science and quit trying to manipulate the definitions of science and all that, and look at the facts. They can look at your blood, they can look at your DNA, and you're either going to have an X chromosome, or you're going to have an XY chromosome. And they want to talk about that 1 in a billion that is something different. That's an anomaly. That's not the regularity. The 99.99999999999% is XX, XY.
If you're a cat, get down there on the floor and go over there and eat out of that bowl. I'll get you some cat food.
Some of them
Yeah.
might do that.
Well, power to them. But, you know, if,
No,
if
that's
you wanna
see,
be-
that's what you say. Okay, no, I'm not going to play that game with you.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go home and if your parents want to play that game with you, you can do that. But here in the class, you're going to sit in that chair. You're going to study this subject.
Oh, you'd hurt somebody's feelings if you did that.
Well, I don't really care.
And no purring in class.
Yeah. Don't really
no
care.
whining.
You know, this isn't about feelings. You know, you want to help someone's feelings, like we talked about earlier. Get them a way to earn a job. You want to make their feelings better? Wait till they buy their first car without any help.
Yep.
Yep.
Wait till they buy their own home, or pay their own light bill, or any of that. That's what the goal should be about, making someone feel good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is help them create their earning potential. But no, we're focused on so many other things, so far away from what education is supposed to be, what society, you know, like I said, you want to do all those things on your own time, feel free.
Yep.
But at school, this is the way we operate at school, this is the way the job operates.
Well,
You
we've
know?
grown into a society of everybody owes me. You know.
Well, they're trying
You
to make
don't
it,
have to earn it.
if someone walked in here and wanted a job that said, but, you know, I go by Whiskers, and I'm, you know, I'm a calico, and, you know, like, I'll let
Okay.
you know. You know,
We'll call you.
yeah. You know, no, you know, and to try to say, well, I'm discriminating because of that? No, no, they have taken themselves out of the workforce, you know, on their own. And, you know, that's, I'm not going to ask our customers or anyone else that they're going to have to call somebody Whiskers and, you know, that. And besides, I've never seen a cat do an interview or go out and sell ads. So, you know, if they've chosen a cat's life, good luck finding someone who's going to feed you and let you lay around in the window all day long. You know, 'cause that's what cats do. You know, cats don't go out and get jobs, do they?
I've never
So if
seen
you want to
one.
be a cat, I'll help you out with
pretty,
that.
They're pretty dependent.
So, but
Oh, gosh.
but that's what do you think was going to happen when you start saying no? You can be this, you can be that. You know, and it's a free country. But I agree with what the rapper said. You can play whatever game you want, but I don't have to play that game with you.
That's right.
And well, before we head in the weekend, do you have something you want to share?
No, I don't know. We'll get into this. This is just something that I thought was rather interesting. I got this out of the Daily Caller, but it's about. I'll just read you the first little bit of it. It said many American wheat farmers may face losses in 2024 due to a glut of foreign supply, coupled with soaring equipment and labor costs and amid high inflation. Reuters reported Wednesday, but I seen this in the Daily Caller, and I thought that was rather interesting that they were talking about the American farmers and, you know, wheat prices and one thing and another, and the cost of equipment and land and all of that, and how, you know, drought was affecting them and how it was going to affect the you know, the farmers. But I want to do a little more research because I did look up, you know, ordinarily Kansas produces about 400 million, between 3 and 400 million bushel of wheat a year. This year, I think they've got it down to like 201 million bushel. So it's, you know, it's down quite a bit, and I don't know why that is, but I was looking through some statistics and all of that, but I'll do a little more research on that. You know, maybe by Monday or sometime next week we can kind of get into how that, you know, farm prices affect, you know, what goes on right here in Surgeon County, you know, and the state. So, but in the meantime, get on that website that the state treasurer showed you this morning, and look around. You might be surprised. I was surprised when I seen 2 or 3 names on there that I know the people. And B did the same thing.
Yep.
And know the people that's on there that, you know, it might not be much, but on the other hand, it's your money, so you just as well get it. And so it'll be fun next time I see those folks. Why, mention the fact to them. Did you know that you got a lottery ticket over here that's a winner? All you got to do is go for it.
Well, you know, I asked the state treasurer today, what'd you think about Jake LaTurner deciding not to run?
Well, I guess I can kind of understand that because the mess that's going on in Washington. Why would anybody with common sense want to stay there? I mean, gosh, what a mess. And and I think Jake, we kind of followed his voting record as we went through the period of time, and I think he voted, the common sense issues like about the other 3 did. Now there's one state legislature that the U.S. representative that I don't think, we agreed with anything she voted for, but I think Jake pretty much voted, the people's ideas and supported that. But I think, I don't know why he did it, but I've thought a lot of times about who would really want to go there and be in that kind of an atmosphere and try to deal with all of that. My goodness, I don't know, but I'm sure there's folks that's going to be stepping up and running hard for that position. So we'll just kind of have to see who comes out of the woodwork, and who's willing to step up and hopefully go represent Kansas as well as Jake did.
Yeah. And so that opens up District 2. We're the big first district, and that's Tracy Mann from our part of the state. You got District 2, 3, and 4. 4 is the Democrat up in the Kansas City area. Mm-hmm. And 2, I believe that's Wichita, and then 3 is the southern,
I think
southeast.
that's right. I don't remember how that lays out. Yeah, something like that.
So we'll see what happens, who's going to throw their name in the hat for District 2, and see how that goes.
We'll probably know some of them by Monday. They won't tarry long.
Well, I don't know if they have long. Got till what, June? June 1st to get on the ballot. Also locally, you got till June 1st also. I think there's a couple of commission seats up. I think C.J. Wetstein's
and Steve Helm.
And Steve Helm's seat. Those are 2 seats that'll be up. Every other seat at from the sheriff to the local treasurer to the register of deeds, clerk, everything. Everything will be up. So all of that. So if you're interested in any of that, you want to go get signed up before June 1st. No city election. That happens on an odd year. So don't worry about that. And but we'll keep you in the loop with those kind of things. But we don't want to send you into the weekend without giving you your squeaky clean car wash weather report. And it got a little cool yesterday. Had to go cover soccer game, and it was a little cool. The Redskins started slow and were down 3-0, and came back and just fell short 3-2. But they battled back in the second half. So what's it going to be like going outside? Well, today is going to be mostly cloudy with a high near 62. Southeast wind 7 to 13 miles per hour. Tonight, a 40% chance of rain, mainly after 1 a.m. Mostly cloudy with a low around 36. East-southeast wind 9 to 15 miles per hour. Saturday, a chance of rain, mainly before 2 a.m. Then a slight chance of showers after 3 p.m. Cloudy with a high near 51. East-northeast wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation is 40%. Saturday night, a 30% chance of showers, mainly between 8 and 2 a.m., cloudy with a low around 33. East wind 8 to 14 miles per hour. Sunday, a 20% chance of showers before 8 a.m., partly sunny with a high near 62. South wind 6 to 11 miles per hour. Sunday night, mostly clear with the low around 37. Looking ahead to the rest of your week, Monday is going to be sunny, 83. Tuesday, 72. Wednesday 75, and Thursday 83. So
Going to warm up.
better looking week next week, but this weekend, little dreary is what I would call it.
Yep.
Looks like it's going to be a dreary week.
If it'll rain, that'll be great.
Yeah, well, if it can just avoid a couple of the lots around South Church of God so I don't have to mow those, I'd appreciate that. But
He
that's,
might have to put a tent over that.
that's the news and views you can use on the High Plains Friday, April 19, 2024. We'll be back with you Monday at 7:30. Until then, this is Earl the Leader in Times with Jim Rice and B. Simon saying when you live in Liberal,
Or Cocker City, Kansas.
there's no place like home. Have a great day, everybody.